The Cleveland Guardians keep doing amazing things. Stephen Kwan keeps setting records. And hey, the smallest story of this game is there was a no-hitter into the sixth inning. What a time to be a Guardians fan. What a time to be a Guardians fan.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jeff Ellis, host of Locked On Guardians. Less than 10 away now, I believe, from 700 episodes. I want to thank everyone for all of your kindness, commitment, and help. We're 15th in network. We're getting close to that top 10. We are 53rd. We didn't quite crack the top 50, but we're getting there. And with all the excitement with Stephen Kwan, this is the week I'm sure we'll crack it. So let's keep working, keep going as a team to be one of the top 10 podcasts on the Locked On Baseball Network. For those who don't know me, as I stated earlier, I'm Jeff Ellis. Before this, I was a lead prospect and draft analyst over at Scout and 24/7. And before that, my main home in the Cleveland blogosphere was at Indians baseball, and even dating back to the Indians prospect insider days. But you've probably seen or heard me reference on literally any site that writes about the Cleveland Guardians through my many years of focused on drafts and prospects, but statistical analysis and things like that. I mean, come on, if you've been a long-time listener to this podcast, I can brag about the fact, like, Brian Lavastida and Cody Morris were profiled here before anywhere else. I mean, yes, there were probably places here and there, but this is one of the first places that you would have heard an in-depth take on them, an explanation why those were helium candidates back in 2019. Now they're both on the 40-man. I was slow to Stephen Kwan, I gotta admit. I should have been more locked into those numbers, but it's been a fun time to be a Guardians fan, and let's get into the game today. So I was watching this when I got home in time to throw it on when the Guardians were up 4-2, and watch them, slowly give that back. It was 4-0. That's right, because all four came in the sixth. And that's the thing. You enter that sixth inning. Shane Bieber was dealing. He had 2 walks heading into that innings, but had gotten 2 double plays immediately after those 2 walks. He comes in the sixth and strikes out the first. Then he's got the hit pitcher. Then he hits someone. Then the double, and another double. Then Ghost comes in and just serves up an absolute meatball to Naquin. So it's like, and the crazy thing is the number of people who are like, man, Shane Bieber's velocity's down. Shane Bieber's spin rate is down. It's like, he may not be as sharp, but he did have 5 innings of no-hit baseball, and he didn't have a full spring training. His arm is going to be a little bit tired. He is not going to be the player he has been traditionally. This is a big deal that these pitchers didn't get a chance to stretch out. There's a reason why that happens. So before anyone starts saying it's about the sticky stuff, because I've had multiple people bring that up, he was never a player who was tied to sticky stuff. I never even heard a whisper of that. Before it's an injury concern after all the games he missed last year, let's actually let these pitchers get stretched out a bit. You can't freak out about anything the starters do in the early going of this year just because they haven't had that opportunity. You need that time. They didn't get that time. Everyone got rushed, and that's where you are with these set of starters. Also in this game, Stephen Kwan gets a walk. I believe with the walk in the first inning, when he got that one, that tied him with Jay Bruce for the most times on base in your first 5 games. If you missed it at home, he ended up with a hit and 2 walks, and that is now 5 games. Every single game, Stephen Kwan has reached base 3 times or more. He's setting all type of records. He is up to. I want to get the quote right here from, it was, Sarah Langs, right? I should know. She's fantastic. She always has really good data. She's been all over the Kwan stuff. And this is just me. Oh, while I pull this up, I want to take a moment though and say, I want to thank everyone out there who listens to Locked On Guardians. I want to thank you for making Locked On Guardians your first listen today and every day, wherever it is that you get podcasts. I do have some reviews to talk about as well. I want to bring up the pronunciation issue. So I saw that in one of the reviews. I still got 4 stars. Why do I mispronounce things? I'm not sure if it's my ADD. I'm not sure if it's my dyslexia. I'm not sure what it is, but it's the same issue Even when I like read my daughter a Frozen book, the number I go back and forth between Anna and Anna. When I read her Belle book, Philip and Philippe, there's something about names that just gets all jumbled. And then the more I try to think about a name, the more I end up inevitably using the incorrect pronunciation because I get so focused on trying to do it. It is nothing other than that. It's just my own disability coming to the forefront. So when people bring up the pronunciation thing, I don't want to say I'm sensitive about it. I try. Andy, as always, thank you so much for helping me out so much through the years with my pronunciation, but it's always going to be an issue. I wish I could promise you wouldn't be, but it's going to be. So it's Slangs on Sports, Sarah Langs. And the exact quote here is, her exact number was that he was up to 115. I can't pull it up right now, but that Stephen Kwan got up to 115 MLB pitches and counting right now with no swings and misses. There was some debate about a swing and a miss early in the game, but it ended up being like a foul tip. So, it doesn't count. But yeah, he's at 115 and counting. That is the longest streak of pitches without a swing and miss for a batter to start their career among active players to debut since 2000, which is probably when they started tracking it. David Fletcher at 100 was the previous high. So again, not only has he not struck out in spring or so far in the season, he hasn't even missed a pitch since the season began. It's unbelievable to see what he is doing. Jose Ramirez with a grand slam in this one, who reached base multiple times. And Miles Straw, for as much as I sit back and go, he's going to be like a 90 runs created plus. He's going to be a below league average bat. This isn't going to keep going. He keeps getting on base. 2 more walks, a hit today. Jose Ramirez goes 3 for 5. Owen Miller, 2 hits, 2 doubles. I mean, he's got to be like half doubles so far. He's got 5 doubles on the year. I've never been the biggest Owen Miller guy, but I mean, last year I had him like 12th in the system, so it's not like I was a hater. I always thought he's probably more utility than starter. He might prove me wrong. Someone who's proving me right, though, Andres Gimenez, I mean, he's the one who broke this game open. When it was a tie game, he hit the go-ahead 2-run home run before the grand slam by Jose Ramirez. He goes 2 for 4 in this one and, has a big home run. I mean, that's the one that's the go-ahead runs in this game. And that was his first of the year. Jose Ramirez, as I mentioned, had his second of the year, and all of that was in the 9th. This was a game that was tied entering the 9th. Guardians get 6. 2 on thanks to Gimenez, 4 thanks to Jose. The negative in this game, there's a few. The stolen bases, it's a team that's normally very efficient. I mean, Tyler Stevenson, kudos to him, not really known as like a defensive specialist, but he threw out Kwan, Jose, and Rosario. Only player who's successful is Miles Straw, but a 1 for 4 day is not, your efficiency needs to be much higher. It's not worth the risk. Bieber was, again, great through 5. It was in the 6th when he was at 79. He ended up with 79 pitches that it came and got him. Anthony Ghost, like I said, it was a complete meatball he served up. It was just unfortunate. I mean, you got a lefty on lefty. Like, the odds of Naquin, you go to Ghost there because Naquin is so bad against lefties. Like, we all know that book. He was here forever. He can't hit lefties, so of course you have to give him the mother of all meatballs for him to hit a home run off a lefty. That's just never going to happen otherwise. And it was. Castro came in scoreless there. I mean, they're using him quite often in the early going. Trevor Stephan had a relatively clean inning, just 1 hit. Sam Henches. And one of the listeners on YouTube, I should have written your name down so I could give you a shout out. Let me know that Henches did get another option year. So, I mean, he should be at some point heading down sooner rather than later. He had 2 wild pitches, gave up an earned run on a hit and a strikeout. He's just nothing about him looks like he's going to be. We still haven't seen Connor Pilkington. Like, let Pilkington at least get a chance to pitch. I would hate if he gets sent down before he gets a chance to pitch after getting a chance with this team. I feel like they're saving him for when they need he is stuck in the old school long relief role. So it's until they need someone like really pitches poorly, and that's when they're gonna break the glass on Pilkington. Hedges even reached base in this one. Now it was thanks to being hit by a pitch, but still, for a guy who's got a 0 batting average, it's nice for him to get hit by a pitch and get on base any way possible. I mean, catching is rough. Like, that's the thing. We're going to talk about some trade ideas in the later segments of the show. The 2 things you have to understand about catchers. 1, there's not enough of them. There's nowhere even remotely near enough of them. And 2, people underestimate value. You don't look at a catcher and go, oh, the bat is he's an average bat, so he's going to have a lower price. No, like an average bat catcher is a top 5 player at his position. And when you get a guy who's a plus defender, that values it. Like I had a discussion, some good people on Twitter today. It's like the idea that Sean Murphy is going to cost a lot more than I think people are willing to expect. And I talked about that on the show previously, that people will think that like if a team were to trade for him, they'd be upset when Sean Murphy arrived because he's not the big bat people want. But you're not acquiring, like if he was JT Realmuto out there, I mean, he would be the most valuable trade asset in baseball right now if he was all of those things combined. Because there's just not that. It's like you have, for a long time, if you want an above average bat in baseball, there was Realmuto, and then, man, why am I blanking on the catcher with the White Sox, who was from Miami, and he went San Diego to Cincinnati. Like, I can tell you, he went in the Matt Latos deal to the Padres. Then he went to the Dodgers from the Padres. And man, this is my mind at this age, that like I can tell you all of that stuff. I can tell you his entire career. I can tell you it was the like I said, the Matt Latos deal when he went to the Reds. But I can't remember the catcher's name, who was hurt most of last year. Oh man, it's like these are embarrassing. They went out and got Reese McGuire, Yasmani Grandal. It finally hit me. I did when I clicked the link to go look at their 40-man, Yasmani Grandal. But for a long time, you only had Grandal and Realmuto, and there was no one else. So when you get even just consistent league average production, that is incredibly, incredibly valuable. So it's going to be expensive to fill that spot. That's why I've always been the person saying like Contreras makes a lot of sense, because rentals just never net as much. And he's a rental. They went out and signed Yan Gomes. And yeah, that's the player I still think this team needs to go. But to get back to this game, I am digressing hardcore. Let's take our first break. We're going to take our first commercial break right here at this point in the episode. We're going to come back, finish up this game, talk about some trade options in segment 2 as well. And then segment 3, it is Wednesday wrap-up. I made a promise to one of our listeners. I'm going to focus in on the Tennessee Arms in segment 3 today. University of Tennessee has started to have, Garrett Crochet, big name, recent high pick from there. They have a few players to check out. And that first sponsor is BuiltBar.com. I had a chirp, which is the ones that are like Peeps today. That was, I bought a box of that. I like the Churro Puff. I decided to go and do that. But their current special, while supplies laughed. They don't laugh at you. That doesn't happen. They're all not going to laugh at you. But the chirps I really enjoy. If you kind of like something peepish, those are fantastic. But their newest flavor that they just released today is Blueberry Muffin. Blueberry Muffin is back. I enjoyed that one in the past. Not necessarily my favorite. I think I would still say go with chirps or churro, but Blueberry Muffin is a solid choice if that is your thing. Caramel Brownie has been sold out. Raspberry Cheesecake sounds good. I have not tried it. Banana Cream Pie is another solid one. They always do banana well. I sat there, I enter it. I'm back to counting my calories, working that. And when I enter one chirp, I get a B grade in my app. When I enter 2, it takes it up to an A grade because it's like combined all the protein, all of the good things you are getting in something that tastes like a Peep. That's right. It gets an A in my health food app and it tastes like a Peep. What else do I have to tell you than that? It's good for you. It tastes like a dessert. Check it out for yourself at BuiltBar.com. Remember the promo code LOCK15. It's the code I use on all of my offers. Build up your Built Bucks. Build up everything. Save even more. BuiltBar.com. Remember that promo code is LOCKed15. Okay, let's get into the traditional breakdown. I really haven't even had a chance to do that for this game. So who reached base twice in this game? Well, Straw, Kwan, and Jose all did. Then you had Mercado. No, not Mercado. I'm sorry. Then you had Gimenez, and Owen Miller. So basically the ones who didn't were Fran Mill, Ahmed Rosario, Mercado, and Hedges. And that's the other thing. Like, Mercado, I know he had the 2 home runs, but he is batted in $150 right now. So the home runs are really helping prop him up in terms of what he's doing. It's like right field. If Miller can play it, it's like all of a sudden you're feeling good about first base. It just comes down to right field and catching that are really bad right now. Fran Mill's not had a good start. Let's be honest as well there. If I'm doing 3 stars in this one, well, I mean, again, I think you go with Gimenez and Ramirez for the big hits in the sixth, and then as much as it pains me not to give it to Kwan, who went 1 for 2 with 2 walks, I think you give it to Bieber with the 3 runs. I mean, he had 5 no-hit innings. That deserves, being put up there. And 5 no-hit innings for him. Doesn't get the win in this one. Ends up giving up 3 runs, 5 strikeouts, 2 hits, and 2 walks. 5 no-hit innings, though. That gets you in. The 2 home runs. Adding up the box score, they had 10 hits and 5 walks, and the hit batter. Plus what? 1 error for Cincinnati. They had 16 opportunities, and that's not count. Well, then you have to add in the wild pitches, right? Because the wild pitch is what led their first runs. That's 17 opportunities. 10 runs on 17 opportunities is pretty good. They took advantage of that. On the other side of things, Cincinnati had 5 hits, just 2 walks. That's 7, and the 2 wild pitches, that gives them 9 opportunities and a hit batter. So that's 10. Getting 5 runs on 10. Both were pretty relatively efficient. When you get right down to it. Guardians, though, at the big win, another fun game to watch. Straw and Kwan and Jose, just at the top of that lineup is a killer. It is an absolute killer, not just because they're productive, but because of how many pitches they make teams throw their way. It's going to be one of those things that's brutal for starters to face. So one of the big stories of yesterday, awkward transition, but here we go. Alec Bohm in the I hate this place. So Alec Bohm was, a big pick. He was like the 3rd overall pick out of Wichita State, one of those small schools. But he was a big, Wichita State. He was a very high draft pick who moved incredibly quickly through the minors. One of the big concerns I had with him is, he's playing him at third base was always going to be questionable. There's no other way around it. Like that's not his ideal home. He is probably a first baseman or a DH. And that first year when he came up in 180 plate appearances, he had a 138 runs created plus. He hit 338, 400 on base, 41 slugging. The BABIP was a 410, so that's totally unsustainable. He's always had weirdly high BABIPs. He's always had some good contact numbers and value throughout his career at that. For a guy who's not known for his speed, but if I also go and I talk about like his sprint speed last year was 68th percentile, his chase rate 61st percentile. Like he doesn't chase. He's got good BABIPs. His average exit velocity 89th. His hard hit 90%. He's doing a lot of things really well. He's not productive. So what is happening? How can you have a lot of really positive indicators and then be, how do you have a BABIP of last year in 417 plate appearances? You have a BABIP of 327 and you hit 247. Like, that's unusual. That's really unusual. So, the strikeout rate did go up and the walk rate did go down, which is part of that. But I think 2 big things. One, he's playing a position that's adding stress to his career. 2, he doesn't feel comfortable or happy where he is. You don't sit there and say what he said if you feel 100% good. And that is why I think Alec Bohm is a really I know everyone loves Josh Naylor, and I've been kind of wishy-washy on Naylor. Bohm, even a year ago, you couldn't have traded Naylor for Bohm straight up. And I wouldn't even necessarily say that's what you want to do now. And I know it's about trying young players, but the one thing the Guardians love to do is buy low. They love, Josh Naylor was a buy low. He hadn't. San Diego has been desperate for outfielders for years, and he couldn't make it for them. San Diego has a bigger need in the outfield right now than the Guardians do. That's how bad it is there, and Naylor couldn't crack it for them. And when you look at, again, just the background, what Bohm did as he quickly ascended through the minors. He didn't even play in Double-A before he got to the big leagues. He went right from Double-A, or he didn't get to Triple-A, he went right from Double-A to the big leagues. And yeah, the big leagues, he struck out a lot more. He's definitely pressed. And Philadelphia is a hard city to play in. He has been under a lot of pressure. And, it's also been a team that's had some turnover in the front office and other things like that. I just think he is the perfect buy low candidate. He is the guy that the Guardians seem to target. And if you add him, the potential upside, it's like, okay, so let's say when you look at the Guardians with the way they're currently aligned, and people are always like, well, this player blocks that player blocks that player. And I mean, I've always been someone saying, yet let the young guys play. But like at this point in time, Owen Miller and Josh Naylor are not sure things, right? Bobby Bradley and Yu Chen Chang are probably not long for this roster. There's a lot of players that give you some leeway. And even if you're like, okay, Josh Naylor's back and he's healthy, with the ground that like Kwan and Straw cover, you can afford to put you can try Fran Mill in a corner outfield spot. You could put Naylor back in the place he was a year ago and let him go out there and play and see if that works. You could have Naylor, go out there, and then at first base you could have a Bohm play. And I know I'm probably butchering the name, so Andy, help me out. But you can find an easy way to make this work. You could do a Naylor Bohm platoon. BOHM. We can, whatever the pronunciation is, you can go out and get a player at the lowest point of their value right now. Like it's to the point that I'm almost like, oh man, if they had held on to Bradley Zimmer, you could have maybe flipped Zimmer for him. Like his value is so low comparatively, and that's a team that needs. It's like, could Mercado plus another small piece net you him? I think so. And then, like I said, we don't know what Naylor's going to do. He'll get an opportunity. We don't know if Miller can keep up anything remotely near what he's doing, but it just gives you another. Jones is still hurt. Arias is going to be down there, I think, for a bit until they feel like they're going to have an opening at shortstop. They're not going to call him up to play infield, any other spot in the infield. And let's just be honest, Ahmed Rosario, the better he plays, the better he becomes in terms of trade value. I would be very surprised if he is with this team come August 1st, because he's going to be a free agent after next season. If he goes out and he performs, he is kind of a positionless person, but you look at Anaheim, who doesn't have a second baseman, you look at the White Sox, you look at the Giants, there are a lot of teams that could use him, and there's a lot of ways to make that work for the Guardians. So that is just a thought process of mine right now. I thought, I'm always sitting there looking for ways to improve. I'll do the pause. Do any of them have catching that could help? Like the question becomes, I guess, talking about that, it's like, could you, like Joey Bart has fallen. I want to talk about another high pick. He is not even like considered the catcher of the future in San Francisco anymore. He is not where he was at the height of his value. He is significantly lower down list. It's like he is their starting catcher, so they'd have a hard time trading him. Kirk Casilli, was a starter at points in Cincinnati, I believe, is the backup. So they do have that. Problem is Patrick Bailey is not like close. He's probably like another year or two away. So maybe that doesn't happen, but there's ways to still get value. That's one of those things that I'm going to be looking at, because for me, it's always about maximizing value for this team. We're going to take that next break, come back, talk about Tennessee baseball. So Tennessee, I believe, is the number one team in the country right now. The big name for them to start the year was Blade Tidwell, who throws really hard, but is also been hurt. Like he was supposed to. It's like you can just, if you go and you type Blade Tidwell into Google and then you go news, it's like, what is Blade Tidwell's role for Tennessee after his debut against Western Carolina? That was 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, close to return, and then promoted to active status 2 weeks ago. You see, then Tidwell is going to start versus Linscomb. So far this year, according to the statistics, as long as they're up to date from the Tennessee website, it's like he's had 2 games, 2 starts, 5 innings. It's not like even though he's starting, they're giving him a ton of innings. And there's still going to be injury concerns there. Again, I want to say he hit 100 in fall ball. And he is still probably the big name. He's probably still the odds-on favorite to be the top one from there. And he is definitely the guy who has generated the most interest. But again, there's high risk. Yeah, I was curious. I went to MLB. I knew that they had him 13th top prospect in this year's draft class. Now, their rankings have not been updated in a while. He's a guy, he's young for the class. He won't turn 21 until June. And yeah, he was up to 99 with I believe it was the slider was his best secondary pitch. And we know how much teams love those sliders, specifically the Guardians. But it's the health. Like, he is a big kid, but we have not seen much from him, and nothing's going to scare a team off quicker than that. Though the top performer for them has been Chase Dollander, who is he's not necessarily the top performer. He's probably the top draft prospect. Let me make sure I get that right. Chase Burns, who was one of the big names to go to college from last year's prep class, has been phenomenal. He is a player to watch for the future. Drew Beams has been utterly fantastic for them as well. But, Dollander has been the draft eligible player. Blade Tidwell is, the ceiling talent. He's the top pitching prospect since Garrett Crochet. And I think there's also some, room for comparison and concern with that same idea of throws hard, big kid, but raw. Might be more reliever than starter, and just that injury concern. So yeah, I was just double checking. Beam is, I believed. I thought he was a freshman. He is a freshman. So you have Beam. That's kind of amazing when you get down to you got Beam and Burns, the two freshmen, who are just dominating. And then again, so Dollander is probably more of a second to third round arm for them. Has also been quite good. So those are really to the fan who asked me to mention, asked about Tennessee, it's like, yes, they have a pair of arms that stand out for this year's draft, above and beyond, what that we've seen for them pretty consistently. They have not had, they've had typically I was a big Christian Stewart fan. If I'm gonna talk about my successes, there's one I got. My co-host wants to come up and talk about University of Tennessee. Apparently, that was not a success for me. Was Christian Stewart? I thought the Tigers did so well in that draft class with Bo Burrows and Christian Stewart, but yeah, didn't happen. Nick Senzel. We've talked about him so much on this show and how he really has not found the success that everyone, and myself included, expected. I mean, I put him as the number 2 player in that draft class. And I think, Crochet has been effective in his limited role, but you do wonder sometimes about things like that. Dollander, I had forgotten, was at Georgia Southern a year ago. Strikeouts per 9 of 14 with a walks per 9 of 1.6, the home run per 9 of 1.0. Not ideal, but again, maybe not again here. I was talking about this with the baseball coach at my high school that I teach at, that home run rates, some teams don't care. Because when the ball is on the ground, there's a better chance for positive hitter outcomes than what's in the air. There is a much bigger effect. Like, a home run is terrible, but most times the ball is in the air. It's a higher percentage of outs. So you're just playing the odds, essentially. So you'd much rather have fly ball than ground ball pitchers anymore. That's why the sinker ball is kind of dying. You're not going to see a lot of teams really investing in that, because the ball on the ground is a lot more dangerous than the ball in the air. And when you look, again, we know they like low walk rate, so you don't hurt yourself when that ball does leave the park, and then the ability to miss bats to get out of sticky situations. 14 strikeouts per 9. So he's absolutely someone you would look at for the Cleveland Guardians. He makes too much sense in terms of just numbers and what he has done this year. And it's a top team, continuing to see them and what they will do in the SEC this year. He's got a chance to, in this class where nobody's stepping up. I'll be surprised if there's a pitcher in the top 15 picks, a college pitcher, I should say. I wouldn't be shocked if there isn't one in the top 20. So just keep that in mind. Dollander is definitely one of those players who is kind of in that top 5 to 10 mix overall. And I'll be just curious to see if he can continue to perform. Not the biggest kid, 6'3", 192. So, keep that in mind. He's not going to be the ideal for a lot of guys. It's not undersized as a righty, but it's also, once you get 6'3" is the cutoff for right-hander size. Once you get below that, you get to that like Tanner Burns territory, teams start to consider you undersized relative to your position. So that's just our Wednesday college wrap up as we continue to look at some top performers or top programs around the country. I hope you enjoyed today's show. Remember to rate and review, download daily. I do have to give some shout outs and thank you. I will do that thank yous on tomorrow's show as we had a whole bunch of iTunes reviews. That is very helpful. We're up to 125 subscribers, so keep those subscribers coming over on Locked On Guardians YouTube. All of that is extremely, extremely helpful. Most hit videos are getting, close to 100 views. The Stephen Kwan one, the Quantum Leap earlier this week, got 435 with 15 likes. That was far and away not even close. The most popular video by a significant margin. So thank you to everyone who watched that one. And have yourself a fantastic day. But that's not how I end it. I end by saying, go, go, Guardians, go.